BDP stands for Building Design Partnership. We are a practice that has offices throughout the UK and Europe, and we are what we term interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary, which means we are composed of a variety of different professions. We're primarily architecture-led, however we also have structural engineers, civil engineers, planning consultants, quantity surveyors, building surveyors, landscape architects, town planners and other smaller professions such as acoustics and lighting engineers. Basically all the disciplines that go together that might have some kind of input into the construction of buildings. In Belfast, BDP consists of 120 staff, multi-professional, all sorts of disciplines, as I listed, architects, engineers, planners, landscape architects. And we're part of the much broader organisation of BDP Europe, which has about 1,200 staff in it in total. I'm a firm believer that the creative process embraces everything we do, and that relates to the initial conceptual process, which people often relate to or I think mistakenly believe is the only creative input to the overall process. I think one can have a creative approach to problem solving at whatever stage of the process. I think one can have a creative approach to the technical resolution of problems and also to the more mundane tasks such as specification writing. There's creative ways of addressing all of these issues which help fulfill the design ambition of the project, which might have been established way at the start but needs to be fulfilled. And particularly when you're engaging with other third parties, consultants, contractors, clients who might have an interest in diluting some of your creative aspiration for reasons of profit or whatever, it's important that you're well capable to tackle all tasks in a creative way to ensure that you get the most out of the design process. A typical challenge that we would face would be a design challenge, and a good example would be the current fashion for creating very green buildings. There are lots of rules and regulations around at the moment with which we must comply that dictate a certain environmental performance for your building, and that's the very base level that we must acknowledge when we are designing. Often clients might present us with an additional challenge and demand that we achieve a better standard than is dictated to us by the rules and regulations. A typical example would be the Victoria Square project in Belfast, where the client asked us to increase the thermal performance of the building envelope beyond that which is required by the rules and regulations to assist them in marketing the scheme to a bank who was going to buy it. Therefore, our challenge was within the technical capabilities of contractors and materials that were available to us at the time. We had to try and achieve something beyond what they were used to constructing, and I suppose beyond what we were used to drawing. We responded to that challenge by looking at all elements of the building that would ordinarily lose heat within the building: roofs, walls, windows, doors. We approached the construction detailing of those in a different fashion to make sure that there was less air leakage, etc. And we also give much greater detailed consideration to the specification of those elements to make sure that they would all lose much less heat than ordinarily they would have done in a normal building. The result of that is that we reduced the carbon footprint of the building, and that the heating and cooling loads were much smaller, and therefore the utility bills would have been consequently reduced. Teamwork is a key component in all the work we do at BDP. Most simplistically, building is a collaborative approach that involves a variety of different consultants. It involves clients, contractors, funders, letting agents, financial teams, etc., etc., etc. It really impinges on so many different professions. Within BDP itself, we have the technical professions who all must have the capability of working well together. We are a multidisciplinary practice. But in addition to the architects, engineers, etc., quantity surveyors, we also have other core members of our team, all of whom contribute to the success of BDP as a firm and a brand. We have human resources, we have accountants, we have marketing people, and all of those people play a key role in making sure that BDP has a proper position within the industry, and that then we subsequently get, or consequently get, the opportunity to use the technical capabilities we have in designing and constructing buildings. Within BDP, I'm glad to say that it's not just a normal 9-to-5 job. The construction industry involves so many different people, professions, players that have their activities to complete, a lot of which depends on us producing information at a particular time. It means our work is deadline driven, and therefore we're constantly working to deadlines, which occasionally means that we have to burn the midnight oil. I'm equally glad to say that generally there is a passion about what we do. People are enthused about creating the best, about optimizing their design work, and therefore are usually very willing to do a few extra hours if that means that they get the best realization of their design ambition. The ability to persevere is really a key characteristic, I believe, of a good architect. That's for a number of reasons. The design process is a very long, drawn-out affair. Often you can engage yourself in a creative task with an output which you feel is satisfactory that may not be satisfactory to the client or other people who are involved in making decisions. Other factors might come into play, economic factors, for example, which might mean that a building that you've worked on for a while gets put on hold and might not get resurrected for a number of years, at which point you'll have to re-engage with the particular set of problems that you were confronting previously. Often, particularly at BDP actually, considering the scale of the work we do, projects can be worked on in our office for a long period of time. Taking the example of Victoria Square in Belfast again, that's been in our office for 10 years. Some people have been working on it for a large portion of that time, and therefore you must really enjoy what you do, and you must have the ability to persevere and have an outlook that always demands you achieve the best. Within architecture, there are various aspects to the notion of risk. Often we might be asked to be involved in a job and we have to weigh up the risk of whether or not we're going to be successful in winning that particular bid. We look at the field of people against whom we are competing and what their track record is, and that will assist us in making a decision as to whether we think it is worth progressing with that job. Sometimes we might take a particular design approach to a job that is influenced by who we think will be judging it or who we think will be a key stakeholder in the decision-making process. So we might not attempt to be particularly innovative if we think that the client body or the people making the decisions are very conservatively minded. Sometimes we also might explore technical solutions that have a small element of risk attached to them. I say that very carefully, of course, because when we're exploring new technologies, we always make sure that we have assessed them professionally and to the extent that our capability allows, and that often involves engaging with the experts within industry to ensure that we're not going to expose our client to any level of risk. And sometimes in pursuing that type of innovation, the client is delighted because it might suit the particular project that they are involved in. To show an aspiration for innovation can be quite rewarding for them, or might help them win a particular contract if they're bidding against other companies. BDP is a hugely creative, multidisciplinary practice. We have won hundreds of awards, which I think is a great reflection on our capability, which encompasses all types of skills, I think, not least creativity, which I mentioned, an ability to stick at a task, see a long project through from start to completion, the ability to work as part of a team across many disciplines, both in-house and external to BDP itself. And the proof really is in the pudding. Our buildings stand the test of time. We have a commitment to our cities and to our towns, and also to our environment, which I think is reflected in the success of our buildings, how people respond to them, and as I mentioned, the awards that they've won when they're judged against their peers.